Yeah.
Ask everyone to please rise for the pledge of allegiance and invocation.
Give me a ball.
May we live our lives to the fullest with your hand to guide us and your knowledge to protect the work that needs to be done. We pray in your name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Where's the chair?
Madam Clerk, would you be so kind as to call the roll?
Kramer,
Here.
Farmer,
Here.
Gilbert,
Here.
Hicks, Krieger,
Here.
Kingston,
Here.
Root. Here.
Mrs. Hicks is absent tonight. I believe that she's on a trip. Is there a motion to excuse her?
I'll make a motion, we excuse you. Second.
Any discussion of the motion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. She is excused from our meeting this evening. We have a motion to approve the minutes of our May 28th meeting as the next item of business. Mrs. Reed, would you mind reading that motion, please?
From May 28th or June 10th?
It says May 28th on mine, but
June
that's not right. It's June 10th. Yes, thank you for that correction. The agenda is wrong.
I move the Swartz Creek City Council approve the minutes of the regular council meeting held Monday, June 10th, 2019 to be circulated and placed on file.
Second.
It's a good thing we changed that. We already approved the minutes from May 28th. Are there any additions or corrections to be made to the minutes? They look good to me and to all the rest of us. So Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Gilbert,
Yes.
Krieger,
Yes.
Kingston,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Farmer.
Yes.
That motion passes. The next item of business is the proposed agenda, and there is going to be a change on the agenda. That change is the 8D, the appointments. We're going to cross that off tonight because I don't really have any changes to use for the appointments tonight. Hopefully at our next meeting we'll have some. I can take care of that, but we'll skip that item tonight. And Mr. Kramer, would you mind motion for the amended agenda?
Mr. Mayor, there's the additional business item for the park fee waiver request.
Oh, that's right. We do have another business item, a waiver request that came in late. So please add that to the agenda. And that will be 8I.
I move the Swartz Creek City Council approve the agenda as amended for the regular council meeting of June 24th, 2019 to be circulated and placed on file.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any speaking to the motion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Krieger,
Yes.
Kingston,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
That motion passes. Our next item of business is the city manager's report. Mr. Zillow, anything to add to your report?
The dog park funds are in, and I expect to have that group doing their final presentation concerning the donation of that facility to the park board on July 3rd.
All right, just a quick note on that. So, motion then to accept the city manager's report.
I move the Swartz Creek City Council accept the city manager's report of June 24th, 2019, including reports and communications to be circulated and placed on file.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept the city manager's report. Any questions or any comments on the report from anyone?
Could you explain a little bit the skill game section, and is there more detail on what was being asked for, or what exactly that was?
My understanding is they're arcade-style games that in some sense must rely on a skill factor. that can be made objective and measured by the state gaming commission or other regulatory body. But there is potential for payouts of something of value. The application we received wasn't complete. We requested cut sheets or data sheets on what the machines were and any performance indicators that they had of the alleged reviews by state regulatory agencies. We never got it. And so we tried to follow up seeking further definitions and experience of other municipalities. And that's basically the understanding we have, is that it's similar to the sweepstakes concept, if council members are familiar with that, as it became used in internet cafes and similar venues a couple of years ago. We have these games that are more akin to legalized gambling of sorts than simple arcade pleasure gaming, as we would define it in the ordinance now. So, as reported, we're still getting information, but that is our understanding, is they have a function more related to some form of gambling than typical pay-to-play entertainment, and they should be regulated and defined accordingly. So we're working on those definitions, and with the ability to present that to the council and the potential for a framework to put it into the ordinance for codification on how it's handled. The knee-jerk reaction of the city attorney was just to define them as gambling and have it regulated as such. There's a bit of risk there because we do allow gambling as licensed or sanctioned by the state. Lottery, for example, whatever it is in some of the food establishments. And this appears to be potentially different. Maybe it's not, maybe it's harmless. That's not the impression I get. But if nothing else, we're going to have to provide more information and put council in a position to make an informed decision.
Is this going into like an existing business, or this is like a new business that wanted to?
There was an existing business that wanted to add this to their offerings. And again, because the application's been incomplete, we haven't approved it.
All right, anyone else? Comments or discussion, questions? If not, we'll call the roll, please.
Krieger,
Yes.
Pinkston,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
That motion passes. We have a number of other reports and communications that are in our packet. Any questions on something that's not going to be an item of business tonight?
We're going to be talking about wiring the replacement here on
What?
wiring the replacement.
I guess no one has any questions or comments on any of those things, so then we will move along and open the meeting to the public. If there's anyone here who would like to address the council about anything, please. I think you know how it goes, Steve.
Steve Shoemaker, 7446 Country Meadow Drive. Speaking about the Brewer Townhouse, I have to say no one spoke against it. I've spoken against it a few times. I mean, I've also hedged it that obviously if the council goes forward with it, about water and sewer fees, because obviously in a democracy, you don't always win. So to say that there was nobody that came and spoke about it, and there's still the open question, we have competing properties that fit the same bill. You got some going in at Apple Creek, and you still have the set townhouse condos at the far end of the city. Granted, it's not downtown, completely downtown like you're figuring, but those affect whether you can sell them. Are they just gonna end up being rentals or even empty? So, someone did speak against and the Veterans Village USA, apparently it's not an S, and they're our local, but and they're incorporated as a nonprofit. They apparently do not have 5031C status yet. Then anyone is showing documents. Instead the state police came by. I don't know if that's the case or not, but they want to show it, and they're headquartered at apparently a trucking company or something like that. I mean, of course, that could just be who's supporting them, trying to get them off the ground, but They're trying to offer jobs at $12 an hour to fundraise, so I don't know.
Thank you for checking that out.
As far as the group that wants the park reservation, we haven't accepted a donation, as far as I know. Not at city council level, not at park board. So if somebody says, oh, we're gonna give you a donation, you gotta accept it. We can't just tell you we're gonna give it. Sometimes there's, requirements to hold it. Whether maintenance costs or you have to do something, put out the additional funds directly. Like donation of the Heritage Park land. He was donating half the land and we had to buy the other half. So I'm not too enthused that they're trying to stick a donation on there and just, they're saying they're gonna put, it's like they haven't even been to the park, at the back of the park. It's Abrams Park, it's just a little strip. I don't know where they think they're gonna put trees. So,
Another good point, Steve. Thank you. Anyone else? We ask you to state your name and address.
Rob Hammond, 5193 Greenleaf Drive. I'm here to ask about this townhouse business on Patino Drive. I'm talking to some people who ain't too happy about it because of all the work that's going to have to be done to make it safe. Hard to make a left turn from Patino Drive onto Morris Road. People have asked me to try to figure out how we could buy something for $100,000 and sell it for 10. And in my mind, the hardest thing for me to swallow on this whole thing, it's our community. It's our community. Why wouldn't you want to put this on the ballot and let us vote for it? I realize that the council can do a whole lot of things, but this is really changing the whole mess of our city. And I try to be very positive about everything. I'm probably the most positive person you'd ever want to meet. This is kind of, to me, a little bit sneaky, because how many citizens really know about all of this? If you read the View paper, there's some stuff in there, but I think that it should be put out to the city. Where are people going to park when they're going, to all the stuff at Pytosh Theater?
We're going to handle that in our meeting tonight.
I'm sorry, you're going to handle what, the parking?
Parking, yes.
Okay.
Be brought up.
Beg your pardon?
It'll be brought up,
Okay.
the parking issue.
Yeah, but I just think that this is something that we should be able to vote on. Because we're going to change Patino Drive from what it is to a very, 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 very busy street. And with people going to the post office, to the bank, to come here, could make a whole lot of problems.
Thank you. Anything else on your mind?
When I think of it at midnight, I could call you.
Good job. CME, GFWC, no, not you, 5352 Greenleaf Drive. Bertino Drive. My dad, when he was on council, made an excellent thought about the issue on turning left when they acquired the property was to move the street over so that you had more visibility. I thought that was a better way to use the property, and you still could use some of that green space for green space. I think we have a lot of concrete in our city. It's nice to have that green look when you go and drive down there. I don't know who would want to spend over $200,000 to look out their window to look at a post office and a cemetery. That is interesting to me. I just don't think all of this was really thought through. But, obviously, it's going forward. I just think it's a disappointment.
Thank you. Your dad's wisdom has been incorporated into the plan. We are planning to put a left turn lane over on that so that the apartments would be pushed over that way, making room for left turn lane because we realize it's always been difficult to pull out on Market.
It is a hazard. I'm glad that you thought of that.
Came up in the past conversation.
Yes, and we have had several people inquiring about buying those apartments as soon as they're built. Not apartments, townhouses, so there is interest.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Lingle, 4138 Swartz Creek. I'll bet I'm the oldest, longest citizen of Swartz Creek here. Continuously in the city?
No, not.
No, I got you. You know I know my way around the dollar.
Yeah.
That's what I do for a living. I'm dollars and cents. If I did business like that, you guys would be supporting me instead of me supporting you. You buy high and sell low? That's not capitalism, son. That's not even poll power. If I would have seen you today on the street, I would have said, the Hawaiian description, the phrase would be this, A-U-W-E. Ay, ay, ay. What the hell are you doing? I saw Mr. Gilbert, I said, you're a brave man. And he said, if you think I'm brave, show up tonight. So I'm here. There's a cop here, so I gotta be cool. Because you know I got
That's a switch.
You know I got a temper and I get loud. And that's all I'm gonna say is, I won't even go into all the problems of left turns and construction and all that. It's just, give me something. Buy something high and give me something.
I have a question for you, sir.
Sure.
What's your name again?
Jim Lingle, L-E-N-G-Y-E-L.
You were a resident in 1958 in this town?
Sure.
There was opposition to Winchester Village at the time?
My uncle from Chicago, the builder, said, boy, I don't know.
That's my point.
Well, it's there, it's there,
Yes.
it's there. I'm going, did they give the property away to the developer?
Not to my,
Oh, I forgot, I have to say that this gentleman agrees with my idea that sometimes things should be put on the ballot, that the people get to decide. There was one member of the council, and I'm not going to identify him, when now what's the Kentucky Chicken? I said that should have been put on a ballot, what to do with the property. And that council member said, where would you ever come up with an idea like that? I mean, it's what the country's based on, you know, we the people. We the people.
Thank you, Mr. Lingle. Anyone else?
Juan Zuniga, 8059 Maple Street. Just wanted to say hello, and I'll be submitting an application for the open planning commission position. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council about anything before we get into our business this evening? Last call. You'll have another chance after our business to address us if you wish to stick around. All right, we'll move into the business. And the first item of business has to do with people with pink shirts. That's usually why you all show up here.
Well, didn't you want us all to speak? I have an idea. Well, I said, it doesn't take us women long, oh, and men.
Thank you.
If we let you talk, though, that's the joke.
I don't wanna talk.
We don't like it.
Get closer together.
Kind of sideways. Oh,
So VFWC, no, I need to podium. No, it's in the way.
Podium's in the way.
Podium's in the way,
Okay, as everyone knows, GFWC Swartz Creek Women's Club, we held our rock-a-thon this year during hometown days. And Boots Abram, she's our committee chair on this project, and she's been doing this for how many years?
How old was I, did you say?
A long time.
When I was a puppy.
So we're really very proud to present Metro Police Authority of Genesee County with a check for our Roscoe, which there are two, for the program, and it's $1,155.65. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, so much.
You're very welcome.
You did everything, Mia?
He's absolutely beautiful. I wouldn't want him like coming down to find me or anything, but dang, I'd love it.
Don't be a criminal.
Oh, I'm not. I'm way too old to be a criminal.
Thanks, Kim.
Roscoe also hunts down lost people, so sometimes.
Oh, so if they wander away.
So I said,
You guys were like individual pictures, there you are. Do that up there.
oh, he's gorgeous. Now, how old is this one?
He's 5, just turned 5.
5. Okay. Yeah, because Ike was with, always with,
What language does he speak?
Depends on what language you.
Oh, no, I know, I was just wondering.
Speak Dutch.
Okay, where he
Oh,
came, where
really?
he came from, yeah.
I
Well, I know around there.
yeah, I know.
Member that wants a picture with Roscoe?
Well, I do. I gotta hang up another fan.
Is this your agenda, do you want this? No, mine, okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Roscoe and his friends have all left. Moving on with our other business this evening, the city council meeting schedule. And that is item 8B. And Mr. Gilbert, would you take care of reading that, please?
Whereas Act 261 of the Public Acts of the State of Michigan of 1968, as amended, requires a public notice of the schedule of regular meetings of the Swartz Creek City Council to be given once each calendar year or fiscal year, and that said notice shall show the regular dates and times for the meeting and the place at which meetings are held. And whereas the Act directs the notice to be posted prominently in the principal office of the City of Swartz Creek or at the public building at which meetings are held or published in a newspaper of general circulation in Swartz Creek. Now therefore, pursuant to the Act, public notice is hereby given that regular meetings for fiscal year 2019-2020 shall be held twice each month, and further that all meetings shall be held in the Paul D. Beakey Municipal Building Council Chambers, located at 8083 Civic Drive, Swartz Creek, Michigan, unless otherwise provided in advance of the City Council. And further meetings shall commence at 7 p.m. on the following dates: July, Monday the 8th, Monday the 22nd, August, Monday the 12th, Monday the 26th. September, Monday the 9th, Monday the 23rd. October, Monday the 14th, Monday the 28th. November, Monday the 11th, Monday the 25th. December, Monday the 9th, Monday the 23rd. January, Monday the 13th, Monday the 27th. February, Monday the 10th, Monday the 24th. March 2020, Monday the 9th, Monday the 23rd. April 2020, Monday the 13th, Monday the 27th. May 2020, Monday the 11th, Tuesday the 26th. Monday the 25th is Memorial Day, so it'll be held a day later. June 2020, Monday the 8th, Monday the 22nd. Be it further resolved the clerk is hereby directed to post a copy of this resolution in a prominent place in the city offices of the city of Swartz Creek. Be it further resolved that the city clerk is hereby directed to supply forthwith, upon request, a copy of this resolution to any newspaper of general circulation in the political subdivision in which the meetings will be held, and/or any radio or television station that regularly broadcasts into the city of Swartz Creek.
Second. Motion is made and seconded. For the information for everyone here, Swartz Creek City operates on a fiscal year from July 1st to June 30th. And so we set our scheduled meetings according to our fiscal year. We usually have meetings on 2 consecutive Mondays in December because of Christmas holidays. Since Christmas falls midweek this year, talking with Adam about it, we decided that we could put it on the schedule for the regular third Monday of the month and see if that would fit into everyone's schedule. If you have a problem with that, let us know now before we adopt this. Anyone? Okay. We have a motion before us, it's made and seconded. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Kingston,
Yes.
Root, yes. Kramer,
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Krieger.
Yes. That motion passes. And the next thing is the Meadowbrook insurance proposal. And I don't know about the rest of you, but reading through these insurance proposals and all the details in there is about as thrilling as reading through some of the ordinances in the past. Very dry and hard to get through and comprehend all of it. So, Mr. Bankston, would you read the motion?
Certainly. Whereas the city of Swartz Creek has a need to insure property, equipment, and services that it owns and provides. And whereas the city of Swartz Creek has been engaged in risk management with the Michigan Municipal League Liability and Property Pool as serviced by Meadowbrook Insurance Group since 1985. And whereas the city of Swartz Creek finds this professional service to meet or exceed financial expectations, as well as the staffing and service needs of the city. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the city of Swartz Creek's appropriate and approved payment for an amount not to exceed $43,823 to Michigan Municipal League Meadowbrook Insurance, payment of the city's annual 2019 to 2020 premiums for property and liability insurance, funds to be apportioned to reflect departmental coverage as noticed in the invoice.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Anyone wish to speak to the motion? You? All right, I believe we're ready to vote on that. This has been our insurance carrier for many years. We have shopped insurance around before and found that their prices are very good and their service is excellent. They're in the business of insuring municipalities. It's what they do, and they do a good job of it. Madam Clerk, read the roll, please.
Root,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Krieger,
Yes.
Pinkston.
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you. The next item of business on the agenda we've crossed out, so we'll go down to the union contract of the AFSCME, and that is item 8E. Back to you, Mrs. Ruth.
Whereas the City of Swartz Creek City Council approved the agreement with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees on June 27, 2016 to provide for conditions and provisions of employment, and whereas the collective bargaining agreement set to expire on June 30th, 2019 was negotiated by the city manager and the AFSCME unit in order to establish terms for a new 3-year agreement. And whereas the city and the AFSCME have tentatively agreed to terms that include, among others, alterations to post-retirement health care, defined contribution retirement, uniforms, and wages. Now, therefore be it resolved that the City of Swartz Creek approve the agreement between the City of Swartz Creek and the Swartz Creek City Employees Union, AFCSME 1918-23 bargaining unit as included herein, less review comments and further authorize the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement on behalf of the city.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is made and seconded. Anyone wish to speak to the motion? One of the items in there is an increase in the amount that the city will pay to match funds put into retirement fund by our city workers. We're raising that from 7% to 9% that we're willing to pay, matching $1 on our part to $2 on their part. And it occurred to me looking through that if they put in $18 and we put in $9, at $27, or that's percentage rather, 27% of what they earn over 20, 25 years is going to add up to a pretty good retirement account.
Some of that is contributed without matching. They could obviously go that high, but it won't be required to get the 9% city match.
Okay. I think it'll still be a very good retirement account.
With all of the units closing out for defined benefit, we're able to set the defined contribution retirements at a level that is comparable, with more predictability on the employer side.
Yes. Mr. Kramer?
Also, the city council packet reflects funding levels. We went from, was it 96 to 94%, something like that, currently.
On the defined benefit actuarial report, yes.
Yeah.
We can talk about that at length. We could hold a workshop on that document.
All right.
In short, they've changed their assumptions to decrease their investment rate, which decreases the amount of, or increases the amount of accrued liability, which isn't good for us. But the plan is funded to such a high extent that we're still in a good position.
Absolutely.
I must admit that there were so many different places they threw out numbers about how we're doing on that. This has to do with not this contract, but our other funds that we have totally confused as to how we're doing. But that's not the item that we're talking about now, so let's stick to the current topic. Anyone wish to address anything about the contract with the employees? Mr. Zell, who does this, what employees does this cover?
This covers non-exempt employees of DPW, hourly employees, Department of Public Service, as well as office staff. They're hourly.
All right, Madam Clerk, I believe we're ready to vote.
Kramer,
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Krieger,
Yes.
Pinkston,
Yes.
Root.
Yes.
That motion passes.
You can call it AFSCME.
AFSCME.
We have another one now coming up. Motion, a resolution to approve the Swartz Creek Supervisors Bargaining Agreement. And that is your turn, Mr. Kramer.
Yes, whereas the City of Swartz Creek City Council approved the Swartz Creek Supervisors Association agreement with the supervisors on July 25th, 2016, to provide for conditions and provisions of employment, and whereas the effective supervisors agreement set to expire on June 30th, 2019, and whereas Employer and Supervisors Association negotiated a tentative agreement that will continue relations with the implementation of the new agreement. Now therefore be it resolved, the City of Swartz Creek City Council hereby approves the amended and restarted 2019 to 2022 collective bargaining labor agreement between the city and the Swartz Creek Supervisors Association, a copy of which is attached hereto.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Zello, who does this agreement cover?
Currently, there's only 3 employees: city clerk, city treasurer, finance director, and the DPW director. Or as it's called in the agreement, the director of community and public services, I think.
So it should get 2 salaries.
I read that title and I wondered who they were talking about. We just call him Tom.
No, but there, as noted in the report, and one of the last provisions within that is that bargaining unit is very small, and there's a stated need for increased flexibility from individual bargaining positions, and that's reflected through management as well, to be able to have a flexible workforce and offer quality of life benefits in addition to compensation that doesn't match well with one uniform contract today, this day and age. So there's a provision in there, a sunset type clause, that will eventually put department heads into individual labor agreements with the city. And that's been something that's been in the last 3-year contract as well, it just didn't come to fruition. Does that make sense?
Yes.
This bargaining unit's on its way out.
Any other questions on that or comments? All right, everyone seems to be comfortable with it. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Farmer,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Krieger,
Yes.
Pinkston,
Yes.
Root. Yes. Kramer.
Yes.
That motion passes. 8G is our next item of business. It's the resolution to approve the professional services agreement with the city manager. Mr. Farmer, would you read that, please?
Whereas the City of Swartz Creek City Council approved the agreement with Adam Zettel, the city manager, on December 3rd, 2013, as amended by resolution of the City Council on June 26th, 2017, to provide for conditions and provisions of employment. And whereas the conditions of employment for department heads and similar employees have changed due to the implementation of the employee handbook and various other labor agreements, and whereas the employer and the city manager seek to enter into a revised and restated agreement that will establish comparable terms and conditions of employment for continuous relations. Now therefore be it resolved, the City of Swartz Creek City Council hereby approves the amended, restated professional services agreement between the city and the Swartz Creek City Council and Adam Zettel, a copy of which is attached hereto.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Anyone wish to speak to the motion?
Any questions at all? It's only the second time it's been back since 2013, so.
I think you've done fantastic.
Mr. Zettel has been working for us going on 6 years. He hasn't received any wage increase in that time. So I think it's about time that we show appreciation and also show that we recognize that inflation is eating away at the salary that was set 6 years ago.
That was, Mrs. L, that's not even a cost of living, not even a cost of living increase?
It's 2%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But my question is, you haven't received?
correct.
Okay.
Nothing.
Yeah.
All right, I believe we're ready to vote.
Gilbert,
No.
Krieger,
Yes.
Pinkston,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Farmer.
Yes.
The motion passes. Our next item of business is Resolution 8H, a resolution to approve a water purchase agreement with Genesee County as a requirement to receive USDA assistance for water main replacement. Mr. Gilbert, would you read the motion, please?
Whereas the city of Swartz Creek owns, operates, and maintains a water distribution system, and whereas the potable water for the city of Swartz Creek is supplied by the Carigandi Water Authority via Genesee County, and whereas the city has been awarded USDA grant funds and low-interest loans that will defray some of the expense of providing for this local and regional water main infrastructure. Whereas the USDA award requires that the water supply contract with Genesee County through its Drain Commission office be affirmed and include standard terms and conditions of the federal department, and whereas the GCDC and the city attorney have modified an acceptable template agreement that restates the terms and conditions under which the county shall be required to supply the city with potable water. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Swartz Creek City Council hereby approves the water supply contract between the City of Genesee, a Michigan corporation, between the County of Genesee, a Michigan County Corporation by and through its Drain Commissioner, County Agency, and the City of Swartz Creek, Michigan. A Michigan Home Rule City, as indicated in the City Council packet of June 24th, 2019. Be it further resolved that the City of Swartz Creek directs the mayor to execute this agreement on behalf of the city.
Is there a second?
I'll second that question.
Okay, question, Mr. Kramer.
Yes, I have, the city packet alludes to some wiggle room on both parties. Could you kind of briefly explain that wiggle room?
Not very easily.
Okay, then I'll talk to you later about it.
I can provide some additional details about what was changed, but I don't think we had we did not track changes on this document.
Okay.
So I apologize.
That's okay.
What the changes that our attorney recommended were, I cannot point out to you at this point.
That's all right.
We can take extra time if there's lack of comfort.
I'll talk to you.
If we want to wait until August, we probably should just have it on our books by September.
I like that idea.
Just a reminder, if we don't do this, we lose millions of dollars in grants and millions of dollars in
Right.
loans that are necessary to replace our water mains, which are constantly breaking.
Right.
So
Yeah.
this is required by the federal government for them to give us money and to loan us money for something we have to do.
I had no intention of putting this postponing vote, the resolution. I just wanted some answers, that's all. But by all means, we have an opportunity for this USDA grant, and we need to go full bore.
So I am assuming then of a no vote on this would be a request to get more information, bring it up later with that additional information. So with that said, I believe we're ready to call the roll.
Krieger,
Yes?
Pinkston,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Farmer,
No.
Gilbert.
No.
Okay. The motion passes. Mr. Zettel, despite the fact that the motion passes, would would you give further information for us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Back to the council.
Yeah, and looking through it again, there won't be much, as most of it would be wordsmithing and not content-based. So keep in mind our other ordinances we adopted to be a part of the system, as well as the contracts we have in place to purchase potable water from Genesee County are still in place.
Thank you. And the last item of business is the one that we added, 8I, the park waiver request. Kingston, will you read that?
Whereas the city of Swartz Creek requires park usage reservations and fees in accordance with adopted rules and regulations, and whereas the Bethany Christian Services reserved Pavilion Number 2 in Abrams Park from 20 July 2019 for the purpose of holding an annual picnic, and whereas the city park rules and regulations states that fees may be waived in full if reservations by a nonprofit are found to result in a public benefit directly or proceeds from the reserved event are found to be of benefit to the city. And whereas the city council finds the petitioning group to be a qualifying group with a qualifying activity being the donation and installation of trees within Abrams Park. Therefore be resolved, the Swartz Creek City Council hereby waives all fees, $70 for the July 20th, 2019 reservation in Abrams Park.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there anyone here from that group, Bethany Christian Services? All right, there's no one we can ask questions of then. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, sir, Dr.
Is there somebody going to be given direction of what kind of trees and where to plant them?
If council's agreeable to this, absolutely. So the city can accept donations for budgeted items. So for example, if someone came in and wanted to donate to the Helmsley Street reconstruction project, we can take that check. The council doesn't have to accept that donation. If somebody came in and wanted to donate a new road, you have to accept that new road before you can accept the money for it. So Mr. Shoemaker's right about that. But we have budgeted for trees in Abrams Park, and as it happens, we've got them in the budget for this year because there's constant reforestry efforts occurring there. And so if those plantings occur under the direction of the supervisor of Public Works, there's no reason we can't accept them administratively and add them to our inventory without any other procedures or barriers. We absolutely would make sure that those species and locations are suitable to the reforestry efforts of that park, which in no small part includes removing a lot of cottonwoods. So.
You may recall we've had quite a problem with die-off of trees due to the beetles. We also have a problem in that park with scrub trees that we'd like to get rid of that are throwing all kinds of garbage all over the tennis courts while we can't use them anymore and other areas of the park. So we probably want some replacement trees for the ones we're going to get rid of. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Mr. Zell, do we know if any of the members of this group are residents of the city?
I didn't ask, and I suspect their client's information is protected based on the nature of their mission.
Usually if someone applies for a reservation, it's the member who lives in the city that does it. I was wondering if they mentioned that they live here, so that they're...
Paperwork indicates business address that's out of the community.
Okay.
And we did affirm they are a modified 501c3.
Okay, I don't see anyone else asking for the floor to discuss this, so Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Krieger,
Yes.
Kingston,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
That motion passes. Believe it or not, we've concluded all of our business tonight, and it's still 10 to 8. us a lot longer tonight with all the stuff on the agenda. So, we're gonna open the meeting to the public again and ask if anyone has thought of anything else they'd like to address the county, the council.
Eric Jameson, 5015 and 5017 Holland Drive. I just wanted to speak briefly about the Brewer Townhome project. I've been here, I've been an advocate for this project from the beginning. I guess I'm here to represent the side of Swartz Creek, the local business owners and the residents that are in favor of this project as well. There is a change in residents' habits and different kind of people, and those kinds of downtown living townhomes, which is a little bit different than typical, but that's why they changed it to fit Swartz Creek, is what people are buying. People are wanting to move to. That's just the trend that we're seeing now. So I hear a lot of these things. Who in their right mind would pay this amount of money for that or this amount of money for that? Well, I make a living trying to get people to buy stuff, and who knows why people would buy anything for whatever price. You can go walk around any 20-something college campus and you can see kids wearing $75 t-shirts, something I would never in my life pay, but they'll buy them by the droves. So I'd hate to speculate who would buy something. I would hate to think that a developer would invest that kind of money into something that nobody would buy. I'm sure that there's some money there. But to be short, I'm an advocate for change. I'm a local business owner. I'm a resident. I'm a local property owner in downtown. I also sit on the DDA. So there is a portion of the residents that also agrees with this change and would like to see it happen. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Will not require Richard Abrams to come to the front and tell us who he is. You can just speak up where you are, sir.
Well, sure, thank you. Points of information. Winchester Village, Winchester Woods, and the balance of the properties known as Swartz Creek Village all were incorporated into the city by ballot. There was no individual Winchester Village vote or anything like that. As far as a complete ballot, I voted against it, which wasn't the smartest thing I ever did. So, just for your information.
Thank you, sir.
Since you live there, you wouldn't have been allowed to live there had it passed on your vote, right?
Mr. Mayor, I'll take this opportunity for a second to thank the residents. I'm Tom Swartzik, your Director of Public Services. We've had very little chance to do our parks the way that our standards have been in the past. Apologies we do make, but there's not much we can do with the weather conditions that have had. Elms Road has never looked this bad, and I don't want to sit here and tell you that the residents, we've had very few complaints about anything, understandably. We appreciate that because, boy, I'll tell you what, it is a mess down there. And after this rainstorm, I'm not going to tell you it's going to get much better before August. It is so wet in Elms Road Park, you just can't even walk through most of those spots. So I just want to let the council know that it isn't something we like any more than anybody else down there. Same way with some yards around town. They are almost impossible to mow at this time. So thank you for your cooperation and your patience, and also to the residents. We do appreciate it more than you think we do. So thank you.
I was going to mention, Tom, we all understand the conditions in the park because we had them in our yards too.
I hope so, because it is
Anyone else? All right, then we will close the meeting to the public and go to remarks by council members. Dr. Pinkerton's here tonight, so we'll end up with you. We'll start
Start here.
And Mrs. Root.
I don't have any remarks.
Mr. Kramer.
Yes, I have a question for our city manager, who may or may not know, or members of council. What's going on with Mary Cradle School? Because recently, conversation with a local resident, he explained to me that there's an interest in the community, since we were talking about ballot measures, perhaps in the future, if opportunity lends itself, for a multi-use, to use Mary Crapo building for a multi-use function within the community. Perhaps maybe the Historical Society, Chamber of Commerce, etc. So what I'm saying is there's interest in the community to put a small millage on the ballot. And I had this conversation recently as of last Tuesday at the Fine Arts concert recently. So that's why I'm asking, what indeed do we know what the fate of this Mary Crapo school is?
So there is a purchase agreement in place with a Genesee County-based group called Communities First with the Swartz Creek Community Schools. There's a purchase that includes the entire block, so the school and grounds, from the baseball diamond up all the way to Miller. And the stipulation that's notable is that there's, I believe, 30-year provision for senior housing. So a deed restriction that runs with the property. And it could be 35 years, permit me to make that error, I believe it's 30. But the Communities First representatives reached out last week and indicated they're looking to do 40 to 50 units of senior housing in that facility, that they're going to seek some federal funds or other funds to support renovation to bring that change in land use about. And then you'll see that at Planning Commission and City Council potentially for a rezoning application. Zone current downtown residential, which is a single-family district, and they'll be looking to change it to multifamily senior housing. They may or may not look to do an expansion at this point or in the future, which is common when you see old school renovations for that purpose. Often they'll preserve the initial schoolhouse and then add a wing that's more contemporary in appearance to fulfill the rest of the housing demand need they perceive being present. So right now, it looks like we could see that go forward in August or September for rezoning and permits and unrelated financing, unrelated to our purposes at least, as they look to finance that endeavor for start in late 2019 or early 2020 for the senior housing project.
Okay. And also, while I have you, and it's my turn, I have a question. How long has this community been planning our Brewer condominium project? How long have there been plans in motion, including meetings and time spent in planning and people gathering and meeting? How long has that been?
I think the first time there was a need for what's called missing middle downtown housing on the Morris Road corridor was with an Anderson Economic Group study that was done, and I think the year was 2005. Actively incorporating that stated need into that site, I believe, began in 2014.
That's a long time for people to be, that's a long time to waste. That's my point. That's a lot of meetings wasted if we didn't approve that project.
Anything else?
That's it, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Farmer?
All set, thank you.
Mr. Gilbert?
Yes, I'd like to say something about that. You ever heard the song, Pave Paradise and Put Up a Parking Lot?
Oh, yeah.
You never know what you got till it's gone?
Sure.
That's exactly it. And you guys can't sit here and tell me that nobody's gave you any negative about that. Well, I sure hear enough of it. And something else. The Karagandhi water, why have I heard that it leaves black stuff around toilets and sinks?
I haven't received any complaints.
Well,
We know they had to use higher phosphorus phosphorus.
When it happens at my house again, I'll get a hold of you,
Do that, we take those.
and you can come out and look at it.
They were required by the state to use additional phosphorus, which creates a white film.
This wasn't white, it was black.
But nothing's been detected anywhere in their system, which is vast, that would lead to that. And certainly we haven't had anything in our local testing that would lead to that.
I was approached about that, so I started watching my own. And yeah, it shows up. And I mean, it's cleaned all the time, but still, if there's any water that sits around that rim, between the drain and the sink, it'll turn black.
There are some, there are some.
phosphate reaction with certain types of metals?
Yes, and what's going on with that is that with the amount of that phosphate that the state required them, it reacts to certain types of faucet rubbers, whether it's the toilet, flapper, whatever. There are some issues. If you go to Home Depot, they have a list on the wall in the back on some of the faucets they sold that had a material in them that certain chemicals reacted to it. You had black particles. They are working very hard right now. They're in a 1-year moratorium from the DEQ where extra samples are being taken. We're taking some in our system to give to them so analysts can tell them that we are trying to lower the amount of phosphate. And I mean, it was like 10 to 20 times higher than what it was required for Flint to even add for their lead problems. They just went overboard. And trying to get them to take that back is absolutely like pulling teeth. I mean, it's horrible.
So it destroys the rubber seals.
That's what they're telling us. We've had people.
The bright side
I've
is,
had to fix mine, put the seals in it.
I'll include again the letter that we received from them indicating their taper down of the phosphate additive. Because I can't remember the parts per million, but it is something like going from 2 parts per million down to 0.1. It's exponential.
It's close enough.
When it will drop, how much it will drop, and how much excess they had to put into the system to alleviate fears of lead release during the switchover from the old water source to the new water source. And it takes a long time. Everything the state does, they want to have very predictable incremental testing on, so that even if there's a slight change in available lead in the system, they can detect it incrementally over a period of months, given what happened in Flint before when they switched water source from Great Lakes at the time to the Flint River. So,
Well, the Flint River cleaned the pipes out, and that's why they had the lead problem.
No question.
yeah, I don't claim to be an expert. There's vast chemistry at play in terms of even the temperature of water used can impact pipe buildup materials that protect against the diffusion of lead or other materials that are used as for the composition of plumbing interior and in public. So I didn't know this until now. Apparently, phosphates can react with certain rubber. So, but it hasn't been something we've got water quality complaints on.
But now I got an answer for somebody.
Yeah, I will also add that the city is very fortunate to be one of the newer systems, believe it or not, on the water division. The oldest part being inherited from Winchester Village. But we have no recorded lead services in town. We have to test the houses that were built between 1970 and 1978 that had lead in the solder. So that's where we're at. We're in excellent shape on it. I mean, we went from 8 samples to 40 samples, now to going up to 60 samples next year. All because they still are requiring such ridiculous amount of sampling in a very good, high-quality water system. So.
All right, thank you.
For what it's worth, Mr. Gilbert, I noticed the black at my house too, so you're not the only one. Dr. Pinkston?
I figured that.
About the townhouses in Red Jory. His dad has been involved in building his town. And I think he's probably part of that, but those condos behind Gilroy's on Louis Lane, that was all Jory's. And they said the same thing, you know, who's gonna buy those? Who's gonna buy them? Well, I don't think these guys would be spending that kind of money if they hadn't done their research, and they've been doing a lot of building down in the Linden Fenton area. So they must have tested the market to know that these things are gonna sell. And the other thing is I'm really proud of the way things are looking downtown. I just can't imagine what a difference that's gonna make in another month. It's really nice. Too bad that the weather doesn't change so Sharps can get their building done too, but I see they're starting to do the asphalt. Swartz Creek's looking great.
We look a lot better too by the time the end of the summer. John, come back to you.
Yeah. Now, RBF Construction, Jory, is the only one that bid on that?
Yes, sir.
We had approached multiple builders, I think in 2016 or 17, to see who could work with the architect that the DDA selected on finalizing details from the private sector side. So someone with an understanding of what it takes to do the site improvements and construction to make sure the plan was feasible. And the other builders, J.W. Morgan, even Woodside, among others, didn't have an appetite for it at the time. And so RBF stepped forward and began working with the DDA from that perspective, and the DDA felt that the relationship was beneficial enough and reliable enough to pursue to the construction phase.
Well, I think that there had to have been a reason for nobody else to bid for that.
There's lots of reasons things might not work. We've had that conversation before, and if we stop doing stuff every time something might go wrong, my opinion is we'll fail to get the quality of life that we're pursuing.
I was here when they built Winchester Village, and they said the same thing. Who the hell would ever want to live out there in those kind of houses? And now, you know, it's one of the most desirable areas in Genesee County. I own 5 homes in there, and the real estate company that handles it said the minute they get a house for sale in Swartz Creek, Winchester Village, that's priced right, it sells within a day or two. And rent's no problem. Our places are just, they're rented within 2 or 3 days after they go out for rent. So, I mean, Swartz Creek's a great place to live, and it's getting better.
Mr. Kramer?
Maybe you can allude to this in your final comments, but we were supposed to talk about the parking remediation for the concerts, the area behind well,
Yes, Mr. Zettel, would you please explain about parking for the concerts if we go ahead with the Brewer Town Hall project?
Well, so we've got the ability, a verbal agreement we'll follow up with in writing once we get an instrument in place to be able to use approximately 2 acres of raceway property right at the end of Civic Drive that we can grade, level, mow, and basically have function in the same manner for concerts. It'll be obviously further away for veteran-related events, but of course we do have the 2 vacant lots on either side of Post Office and Chase respectively, which function the same way, as well as the Civic Campus parking here. So we have a replacement for the concert nights, which can get up to 800 attendees, maybe 1,000 on their bigger nights. And that parking will probably be better suited by the raceway than would be this vacant land on Fortino. The road expansion concept is something that's been part of on the wish list for that intersection for years. And when Morris Road gets redone, I'm switching gears to talk about safety management there. Using federal funds in the next 2 to 3 years, we do plan to expand Fortino Drive North approximately 1 lane so that the current westbound lane, the inlet from Morris, will become the outbound left turn lane. If that makes sense. And so if you can imagine your car in the far north lane today, making the turn onto Morris, you'll have that much more visibility with the cemetery wall. And then, of course, you won't have the single lane of backups when someone's trying to turn left that no one can turn right. So that'll alleviate a lot of the problem, and that's been a consideration of this site plan as well. So we're trying to make sure we do have solutions for parking, that we do have a better situation available for turning movements off of Paul Fortino Drive. It's not going to be perfect, and none of our downtown intersections seem to be, but we also might have an opportunity with the current landlord, or landowner rather, on Mason and Moorish to grade that property down in the midterm. There's actually talk of having that owner relocate that house and bring that property down to grade, which will create better visibility and possibility for two-way at Mason as well. So.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert again. This is your last time, Mr. Gilbert.
Okay.
Remember everything you want to say.
All right, might take a while. Okay, now, you saying the property over here that the racetrack owns, we have to grade it and mow it, or whatever we do, and how much is that gonna cost?
There's not going to be a charge to use the property.
No, I mean, how much is it gonna cost the city to do that work?
Imagine it'll cost the same to mow that property as it would to mow the equivalent amount over here off Fortino and Moorish.
Exactly. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Abrams, I have a question for you.
Oh, I have a question for you too, so go ahead.
My question for you, you were the mayor here for a long time, and on the council for much longer than that. I don't believe that the city purchased that property on Fortino Drive for a green space and just to let it stay vacant forever. They didn't even purchase it, there was plans to build something there. Do you remember
Mr.
what they were
Beatty
gonna
had some
do?
plans for that area. They also had a plan for a drive in, on the, which side is that?
North.
And there's no plan for the type of building that you're talking about right now. It doesn't mean that it couldn't have happened, but we weren't in that discussion. Just getting the property was the initial effort.
Yes, we're going to use it for civil use for buildings to serve members of our community. I believe initially the thought was to build a new senior center there. And there
That
were
was
some
part
other
of it.
proposals.
That was part of it. And the library was going to move too, and all of those things were in the mix, but none of them went.
None of them went, and finally, after it sat vacant for over 15, almost 20 years, we decided it would be better to try and get that back on the tax rolls by taking it from vacant land to use sold to private property owners who will become citizens of the city. And as far as the money concerned that we put into it, I think that we figured we'd get that money back in 3 years in taxes, and then it would build out much more constantly, decades into the future, every 3 years. So,
Well, the
you never
question
know
getting
until
to,
until you do it to find out how much you're going to get in taxes, but go ahead. You got a question?
well, in order to answer you, getting your money back in how many years? You have to realize that the taxes that each individual homeowner pays, only about 25% comes back to the city. So you're not going to get it all one big swell whoop. But anyway, what I wanted to tell you about was last Tuesday, the property that you're talking about using for parking was unavailable because it was so full of water they couldn't park there. So it means you're going to have to develop that area for parking. Right now, we go in there because if it's dry, you can park. When it's wet, you can't park. So you're going to have to do something.
It was roped off.
I don't mean to take up your time, but I want to share this with you because it kind of leads into one thing. I spent last Wednesday at a meeting in the head of Metropolitan Planning, Gary Bradshaw, was there. We were discussing how the city of Swartz Creek has changed over the last 15, 18 years. He said he's been there 12 years, who now heads this planning division. And he said, you know, 12 years ago, he says, I wouldn't have even considered Swartz Creek as a place to move into coming from out of town. He said now it's so much on the radar of everybody that they talk to coming into the community. He said it doesn't mean that they will actually live there, but he said at least the progress that this city has made, there is an interest and an attention span from people out there to look at us before they go to Fenton or Brighton or any of that area because of our access to I-69, beautiful, and your street program. You guys realize how huge that is to a community to have it out there where people say, you're actually doing something, you're fixing your road. Our two streets made the cover of the Planning Commission's brochure that they give out to communities because it was so impressive on what happened. So there is a lot of positive out there from people that you may not get, but at least they're thinking about us. Before, you weren't even considered. And I'm not going to be here that much longer. What happens to that property or not, I think the city has the best interest of the general public. And your downtown, good gosh, that is looking sharp. Get your buildings back in shape and things. And our city manager's done a lot of positive things over the last 6-8 years, where we were always kind of pretty much stale, you know. At least we are looking at things. And getting out there today, that's huge. So I just wanted to show you, I thought that was a pretty good analysis of the city of Swartz Creek coming from somebody that is the head of the planning commission in Genesee County. He wishes other areas would have that same interest, so just wanted to share that with you.
City manager and a great city council.
And again, that's true. You've had the luxury of having a very good workable council for the last 20 years, so.
I'll stay after if anybody wants to talk about this, since we're getting done so early. I can set up in that conference room and chat about this, anything, but the Brewer Townhome process, even if we don't agree on what is happening, I think it's crucial people understand why and how we got here.
And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to go forward, but I wobble a lot, so thank you for letting me sit and talk.
Before we close tonight, I do have one other thing I'd like to say, and that is congratulations to former Mayor Dick Abrams having a 90th birthday party this week. We'd like to tell people when and where it is.
It was.
You missed it.
You missed it.
Yep, it was last Saturday.
Son of a gun.
Happy belated birthday.
It was a great party.
It was a good party. All right. Glad to hear that at least.
We're still eating the cake.
All right, that's about it for this meeting. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Okay, we're adjourned.